Are we connected to? Okay. Hello and welcome to day 4 of the CEO of You podcast. And today we're going to talk about some things that I have not been sharing I think I've been gatekeeping a little bit on this one because this is the number one thing that helped one of my clients make at least $500,000 in his business. And it was a small thing. And I think this is actually very common when you build your business to a certain size. Little tweaks will have enormous impact. So for someone who is just starting out, I don't think this is going to make you $500,000 off the bat. But for some of you, it will be incredibly impactful. And so this really boils down to clarity. We very often think that we're clear when we are not. We think that what we say makes a lot of sense, and it does not, because we live in our own heads. We have our own context, we have our own understanding. And then we will speak and we think that it is received with the intention that it was meant to be received. But what we don't fully understand is that every single person on this planet is running on a different type of software. We do have a lot of similarity in codes here and there, but we all have our own unique software. And if the input that you're giving me is uniquely matching your software, then my software is going to get real confused. And so that's why sometimes we feel like we've communicated something and we've communicated in a way that should be understood. And then when someone is on the receiving end of it, what they hear and understand is not what you thought they would hear and understand. It's different. So very often, if I'm communicating something that is very important to be understood in a certain way, I will ask the person to just kind of repeat back to me what the key takeaway was, what it is that they meant to, what did they benefit from this? What is it that they feel like they're supposed to go and do now with this information? And very often you'll see, oh, wow, okay, that's what you understood. Very interesting. Let's try again. So the same happens in people's marketing materials, sales materials. You think that because you say something that people will understand why they should buy it or why you're great at what you do. And as a coach, especially when I do business coaching, it is so clear when someone has found words that they feel are just the best words to describe what it is that they're doing. And then I'm sitting as a listener and thinking, I have no idea what you just mean. This doesn't give me any clarity at all. I don't know. I don't even fully know what your business is. I don't understand what your competitive advantage is. I don't understand why I should go to you instead of somebody else. It sounded really good, but I have no clarity. And the thing is also this: if something sounds really smart and the person you're speaking to doesn't get it, they don't even want to ask follow-up questions because they don't want to risk looking dumb. If you said something smart, if I don't get it, it must mean that I'm a dumb person. We're not going to go there. And so I'll just smile and nod. Especially if I'm not even connected to you in a way that I actually do want to understand it. Let's say we meet anywhere. I've never met you before. Hey, how are you? Oh, very nice to meet you. What do you do? And the person says something and I have no idea what that means. I don't have the attachment to you to want to actually understand. And so if you just say something that sounds really good and people won't understand it, there's a good to fair chance, especially for the people that you haven't met yet, haven't met before, they're just going to let it slide. They don't want to get into a lethargic conversation in order to understand something that you didn't have the consideration to voice in a different way before even meeting them. And so what a lot of, so many entrepreneurs are incredibly smart. So many leaders are incredibly smart. And they love finding something that sounds really smart in the way that they can then present themselves and their products. And it is so damaging to their business. And so one of my clients had this incredible opportunity to present an offer. He was pitching, basically. And he had the first meeting already. and there was no traction. He didn't understand it because it was such a good offer and it was perfect for the client. And he didn't understand, and he ended up getting an opportunity to talk to someone again. And I think he found someone different to talk to, but still within the same solution. And so we had a conversation. I asked him about, okay, so how are you talking about this? And for context, this is a technical person. And what very often, I love working with technical people because you can generally go and significantly increase your revenue by not talking like a technical person. Stop talking technical stuff. Always assume, especially if you're in tech, okay, because this is especially something that tech people tend to do. Always assume that the person you're talking to is not a technical person. Assume that the person you're talking to has no technical language. And this means even basic language that you would use, for example, with a phone, talking about gigabytes or gigabits or whichever the thing is, talking about RAMs or relatively basic stuff that the normal person knows from having a digital device. Even that, leave it out, because also that doesn't matter. If you think about Steve Jobs, when he first presented, was it the iPod? You remember the iPods we had before the smartphones? Or was it the smartphone? He was like, no, the iPod. He said, it's 1,000 songs in your pocket. He didn't talk about how much storage was on it. He said, you have 1,000 songs in your pocket. And when he presented the smartphone, it was similar. He said it's an MP3 player, it's a phone, and it's something else. I don't even remember what it is, or it's not even important what it is. The important thing is that he took something that could have been very complex and technical, and then he used image words to describe what the thing was so that people could understand it fully, very simply. 1,000 songs in your pocket. And back then, you see, me, I grew up with like the CD players that were like a big chunky thing, or the Walkmans, which was also a big chunky thing. And then we had like a short period of time where there were these like little disc players. So I had something that was smaller, but I would still have to go and load songs onto this little disc that looked like a floppy disk, if you know what that is. Some of you probably don't. Shows that we're aging, isn't it? I still had to take those and unload it, and it can carry maybe 30 songs or so. And so there was just something incredibly magical about having this iPod that could shuffle 1,000 songs. It was unheard of. And as soon as he said it's like 1,000 songs in your pocket, we're like, oh, wait, what? Imagine now he had gotten up on stage and been like, oh yeah, this little thing has this and that much storage and has these and these technical features. Nobody would care, honestly, right? Unless you're a technical person and that translates. We got to translate the stuff in a way that the people we're selling to will buy it. So back to my client. He had a second meeting. We had a conversation about how is he going to talk about this? And then I started asking him questions to figure out what is the product actually? What is this solution that you're selling? And so because he also knew I was not technical, he had to actually start explaining, this is how it's set up, this is what the function is. And I was like, oh, okay. So can we talk a little bit more about what is it going to look like when this solution is in place? And he started talking. He said, oh, and I was like, okay. So what I hear is that this here is going to be really convenient. This here is going to be really nice for people. And this here is going to just, it's going to give ease. It's going to give safety. It's going to give all of these things. And then I said, okay, let's try for a second that we describe what the experience is with the solution they already have in place. It's slow, it's wonky, it's boring, people lose patience. And I started really seeing it from the perspective of the end user. Okay, so right now it's giving a really negative experience for people. And then we started describing all of the ways in which it actually gives a really negative experience for people. And then we said, okay, once you have this solution in place, what is it going to feel like? What is the experience going to be? How are the clients going to feel? And also, how is this competitive with either other. So in this case, it was a bit unique. So you would have to go to other countries in order to get a similar experience without revealing too much. And so we started talking about how is that going to improve the whole look of the country compared to other scenarios. And so we really started getting language on this. And so he went, and I told him, assume the person you're talking to knows but has even less technical knowledge than I do. Always assume, and you can all, if he starts asking questions that are technical, feel free to answer in a way that is technical so you can show that you have the skills, that you know what you're talking about. But never open with that. Never open with language that could potentially distort the person receiving it and their idea of what's going on. And so most people will not admit when there's something they don't understand. They will simply stumble on the word or the sentence that they don't get, and then they're going to stay stuck there. Whereas you keep talking, they're not going to move, they're not going to follow all the other things that you say. And they're going to have a very limited idea of what is it actually that you're presenting. But if you talked to someone like they're a kindergartner, or they are your grandmother, or someone who just doesn't have that, what words would you use in order to really get them to clearly visualize? When you use picture words, so when you use something that describes a scenario, you help people picture what is it actually going to look like when this is in place, and describe the client journey, right? If you're a B2B or B2G, explain to them what is the journey going to be like for the person that they are serving. If you're doing B2C, use language that makes them understand as the end user how their life is going to be different. And not just be in terms of the practical stuff. How's it going to feel? What are things that they can do that they couldn't do before? What gives them, does it give any sense of safety, of protection? Is there something that they don't have to worry about anymore? Is there something that's just going to feel really comfortable? Is it going to give them a sense of status? Is there something that's going to be very convenient for them? Is there something that they won't have to spend their attention on anymore, their time on anymore? And once that is freed up, what else could they be spending it doing? How is it going to feel? How's it going to look? Right? That's what we want to get into. That is so much more important than figuring out how to explain something in technical terms just so that you can prove to the client that you understand the technical terms. That's not important. You never want to come across as being more smart than your client. You never want to come across as if there's like this kind of arrogance level against your client. And yes, your client, you want to make sure that your client knows that you're the right fit for that. But most of all, you want to make sure that you respect them and they feel respected. This is so incredibly important. Now, when it comes to figuring out where am I not clear, it can be incredibly difficult, and that is therefore very important that you have people in your life who will be transparent and honest with you. Because most friends think that they're doing you a favor by saying, "Oh, that's really good. That sounds really good," when they don't actually understand what you're saying. And that's not a good thing, right? It's not a compliment. Again, here I would challenge him. Could you describe back to me, what did you really understand from what I said? What words would you use to describe what I do or what I told you that I do? And then sometimes you'll find whatever they say in return, it's like, that has nothing to do with what I just said. You just didn't get it. And sometimes they think they kind of do get it, but they just don't, right? They really don't. So use other people that you trust as a mirror to figure out, are you being clear in general? And it is a lot easier working with, for example, a business coach. That's someone who will be able to tell you if something makes sense or not, because you literally pay them to, right? Whereas, and it's something that pretty much almost everyone goes through. Some people have figured it out, but most people have either started, they're still not figuring it out, or it's like they started where they didn't know how to figure it out. So they had to develop the language that they then felt, okay, this seems to resonate with people. The thing is, when we, like I started the whole session saying, is that when we're inside our own heads, we don't know what makes sense. And so even for me, when I tell people what I do, I feel like that makes so much sense because I'm inside the context of my own understanding. And then when I started describing to people, for me, it makes so much. You cannot lead anyone. You cannot achieve anything important if you don't know self-leadership. You don't have personal development. For me, personal development is the core of everything you achieve in life, anything that you want in life. And if you don't have that sorted, you're going to either burn out or you're going to get bored or you don't know how to navigate things. You're always going to depend on other people. It's a short-term process for me, right? And so for me, it's like, oh, but leadership and business from a perspective of personal development, that makes so much sense to me. But for some people, they don't get it. Like, why do we need that? I just need a strategy and a plan and we go. And then I try to say, no, you don't get it. If you're not the kind of person who can implement it and implement it successfully and consistently, then no, it's not going to work for you just because you got ChatGPT to write you a beautiful strategy. And for me, it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. Of course, you cannot go successfully through change if you can't lead yourself. You cannot lead other people if you cannot lead yourself. If you are not aware of when is your ego playing in versus what is actually the best situation and decision for the mission, if you don't know how to discern that, which takes personal development, then you cannot run a business successfully over time. You need not just the mindset work, but the emotional work, the development work, the growth work, the dealing with your own fears, noticing when something is a fear talking versus when it's actual, real, importantly rooted resistance, right? When discernment is so important. Knowing when am I being swayed or manipulated by someone is so important. But how can we ever do any of that work if we don't work on ourselves? If we don't do the personal development work, how can you ever get to that place? And discovering when is something an excuse, right? We're literally just human beings with excuses for why we shouldn't do all the things that we're meant to do in order to achieve the results that we want to have. That's it. I deal so much with change. Like whenever somebody wants to grow their business or change the business, or maybe you just cut costs in their business, or they want to pivot their business, maybe they want to lead a team through some change, maybe they want to grow, they want whatever it is. Like everything is rooted in change, and change means doing things differently, and doing things differently means that you're going to have to work on yourself, because our initial response is always to reject change. We always want to just prefer to stay the same. We're humans. We want to stay the same. We don't want to change. No matter how much we think we want to change, we don't want to change. And so unless you really notice, these are the patterns that happen when I try to change, then we will just fall into our own excuses. We'll see every single time I try to change, an excuse comes, and I buy the excuse, and then we wait, we delay the change. And then I get sick of delaying the change because something's got to change. And then I get started on my journey, and then whoop, all of the excuses come because it's very uncomfortable. And all of the excuses pull us out of the active process of actual change. We're not able to hold the discomfort of the change for long enough for the change to settle. So we stick with the excuses and we go back and we get really frustrated. This is personal development work. This is self-leadership. This is an understanding those processes and how all of us go through something like that. Once we understand that, we can see, okay, I understand why my team is resisting this change so much. And because I understand why the team is resisting the change so much, I'm able to actually work with it. I'm able to do something about it. I'm able to pay much more attention to the process of communicating to the team about the change, including them into the process about change. Nothing can be done without personal development. Nothing, in my opinion. But do you also see that if I just come out and say, hi, I do leadership and business based on personal development, people are going to be like, sure, sounds good. Does that mean they understand why personal development is the key of anything in business and leadership? Not necessarily. And so this is one of the reasons I'm here to talk to you about it. So figure out how to get clarity. Whatever you think it is, this is an incense thing I just got. That's why it looks smoky. It smells really nice. Don't pay too much attention to it though. Don't let ourselves get distracted. Okay, I did get distracted. If you feel like you lack clarity in your business, in your language, in your communication, start by figuring out what is it actually you want to say? Why is it that you want to say it? How is it that you want it to be received? What do you want to get as a result of that communication? What is the change that you're hoping to see? Whether it is communication in your relationship. When you're communicating something, are you just venting, or do you hope for some sort of change within the dynamic of the relationship? If it's a team, again, are you just venting? Why are you saying what you're saying? What is the purpose behind it? And then say, okay, what I'm actually saying, is that a match for the intention that I have with this communication? If it's for a client, you want them to buy, obviously, or at least set up a meeting. Does the communication you have in place, if you were on the receiving end of that, does it actually have the desired effect? And very often it simply means, let's bring a colleague into this, let's bring a friend into this, let's match and see, can we get their inputs and their feedback to see if this actually has the intended effect. Very often we will unintentionally come across as very arrogant when we communicate. And that there's a million different ways in this can play out. And then I don't want to get too much into that right now, but it's very, very important to think of, can this come across as arrogant? Could this come across as disrespectful? Could it come across as condescending? And once I've said this, if someone said that to me, would that actually ignite a desired trigger? Is it going to trigger the change that I want to see in that person in terms of them changing their behaviors or receiving just whatever communication it was in any sort of way, or setting up a meeting or buying a product? We really have to do this work in order to get fully clear on it. And I would say test this with a lot of people, not just the people who think the same as you. Is that what we do? Does this look good? Oh my God, it's so good. I mean, it's like you're inside my head. Yeah, because you literally found a person who's the closest thing to a copy paste of you and ask, right? As someone who's older, younger, in a different business and doing different things, especially if they're close to the ideal person that you're communicating to, find someone who's close to that and ask and talk and ask them, not just what do you think about it, but can you describe it back to me? What do you think this is about? What did you get? What is the feeling? Do you feel like this was respectful? What does it make you want to do? Does it make you want to do something? Change? Does it make you want to buy? Does it make you want to have more conversation about how we improve this relationship? Because guess what? If you have like a desired communication that you want to share with a partner, let's say you're me and I have something I want to tell my partner because I'm sick of his behavior. And then this is what I want to say. And then I call my girlfriend. All right, hey lady, do you think if I said this, do you think you would love it? And she's gonna be, oh my goodness, yes, it's so good. Oh, you really put, a lot of clarity on that. Maybe try with a dude, try with a guy, right? Just see, does this trigger any of your old wounds? We never know. So that was pretty much it in terms of why clarity is the number one thing that is blocking your next level, your change, whatever it is that you want to do. I hope this is helpful. I hope if you have questions, I hope if this was unclear, I hope you will tell me. I hope if you have any questions, you will tell me. I am such a big fan of questions. I love when I get to respond to something. So if you do have something that you want to ask, please do. And just put it in comments. I don't know if you can send me a direct message here. No idea. Find me on Instagram, you absolutely can. Okay. Thank you all and have a beautiful, blessed day. Bye.